Hi there, welcome back. It's Laura at Hyperstamper. I have something to show you. This is, I had four of these, or five actually, of these books from this series by Carrie. It is one of my favorites. I made, this was one of the very first junk journals I ever made. And so that's a little treasure that I'm never going to part with. Robert Ord's Atonement. This is another one that I have in my collection, and that will be the last of this series that I make a junk journal of, and I'm hesitant to give it up just yet. And then this one here is one that I actually made to put in my Etsy shop, hyperstamper.etsy.com today. And don't forget, everything in my Etsy shop has free shipping in North America. So if you're in Canada or the US, free shipping included in the price. And they're super reasonable. They're under $100 US, all of them. So let's have a little look here. This is a gorgeous early 1900s book. And you'll see that the publisher uses sometimes this woman with the hat, sometimes this woman, but you'll notice that the shape of the glue down is the same. So it's all original. I love the beautiful reds and deep greens. I love everything about it. This one is intact. I've added some vintage beads that I pulled off of all different kinds of vintage jewelry and made the bangle to match the beautiful cover. So let's take a little look inside. Again, that's early 1900s. The owner of this inscribed it as a Christmas present in 1917 from Aunt, I think it's Heather or Leotha. I can't figure that out. This is a gorgeous photo here that I've also had for several years, but I liked that she was wearing a hat and it kind of matched the theme of this book. So I put it on a hinge so you could pull it off if you wanted, or just enjoy having another secret little journaling spot under there. I always keep the original pages of the book. I just added some lace here. This is one of the, actually it's the chapter 1 first page of the book. Now I did want to mention something. If somebody wanted this journal, they could, this isn't the right color, but they could request when they purchase it that I cover up the Aunt Diana part, if they don't want that, if they don't want the name Aunt Diana on it. Okay, so antique. Everything in here, as you know, if you follow me, is authentic, antique, and vintage ephemera. I don't use any commercial products in my junk journals. 1920s children's book, wonderful clusters using vintage stamps and ephemera, and that even has a little bit of interior spine on it. The vintage recipe book plate, and this is an antique book plate from Eldon Spurl that still actually has the original glue on the back. So they would have just added water and stuck that inside the front page of the book so we know who owns it. That's on the Secret Garden antique book page there. 1950s Theatre World magazine page, and in this little pocket here I've got the cover of a 1960s art book on Renoir, and it's just the prettiest little image of a girl there. So it's a little 60-year-old piece there. You can turn into a little journaling book. The flip side of those pages, this is from the early 1900s. Advertising more books. Always had that at the back of the books so kids could order more books. Vintage botanical book page, a lovely cluster here. This is actually from a florist's box from the 60s. This is from the 1920s, this book, Things to Make and Do. I made this pocket out of another, it's actually a Huckleberry Finn book from the early 1900s. And this is a glassine vintage envelope with 4 antique and vintage stamps in it. Isn't that cool? That goes right into there, a little pocket there. Isn't that sweet? And that is mounted on top of an 1850s history book page. This is a love, look at this castle, Conway Castle. And this is from I think it says 57 there. Isn't that wonderful? So almost 70 years old, that postcard. 1930s children's book page. And this is from the 1800s as well. It is a signature that out of a dilapidated poetry book that I had. And it is called The Ministry of Song. And there's some lovely little things in there. Beautiful little poems. And more these things to make and do. There's napkin folding in there, which is kind of awesome. This is a vintage children's workbook page, and this is just an antique book page that I turned into a journaling pocket. But look at the wonderful illustration here. Irving Berlin, Mark Conway. Yeah, just wonderful. Another 1930s children's book page here. More fun clusters. This here is from 1926, and look at this. It is got just a bit of the peach coloring in it, and it's this wonderful fashion page. It's got the date up here in the corner, 1926. And the flip side is just as beautiful. So you can have an awful lot of fun with that. Serious fun there. Quite the treasure. And over here I made a journaling tag out of a children's book page from the 30s. And just some quilting here, 1930s book page there, vintage canasta or bridge, I forget, score sheet there that you can journal on. And this pocket here is made from a 1930s children's book as well. Look at the beautiful cherry blossoms and the birds, robins in the tree. This is from the 1920s art education book, and this was a how to draw and how to shade page, which is really neat. And here's another I think this one is actually 1940s, and this is a chapter on weather. So I put some antique paper on the back so you could journal on that. Another really fun little 1930s book page there. This is from the Encyclopedia of Homemaking. Isn't that neat? And she's doing laundry and she's sewing before laundering. Always sew before laundering. Another fun little children's book page here. A vintage bird book page here. And this is a pristine, never used hanky. It's quite old, but it's just in perfect condition, and it is lovely. And it's original fold there. And this is the original spine from this book that I pulled out inside the interior spine. Look at this beautiful leather piece here. It was from a book that was just in shambles, but I was able to just save this piece, Famous English Books and Their Stories. Make a little cluster there. Another 1920s page here. 1953 Wonder Bread receipt. And a little teeny tiny castle picture here. I just love it. I think it's so pretty. This is a 63-year-old attendance sheet for committee work at the Beacon Lodge. And a wonderful Mother Goose page. 3 young rats. And little piggies. And dogs. And cats. Wonderful membership page. This is from the 1920s banknote and a vintage playing card from Niagara Falls, honeymoon capital of the world. Another wonderful children's book page here, and this is also an antique book page, over 100 years old, very brittle, so I put some antique paper on the back for journaling, and that's all inside of a 1920s children's book page. That's Goldilocks there. And this wonderful plate from the early 1900s from another antique book I had, Piccola. And she has a little bird in her hand. And then another little woodpecker here from a vintage bird book. And I made this window pane pocket. And this is really cool. This I cut out of a 1950s magazine. Isn't that fun? Acme scissors and shears. I just thought it was fun. And there was room for it to be in here. It's quite long. And that is the spine of a dust cover for a book. More antique paper. These are the original last pages and the end page of this book, Aunt Diana. So I hope you love it as much as I loved making it. Hyperstamper.etsy.com, and don't forget to subscribe.